Welcome on in. This is the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast, the Week 9 preview edition. I'm your host, John McKechnie. That is Mario Puig. This podcast brought to you by our friends over at Circa, over at Mega Sports Progressive, and over at Chalkboard. Coming to you a little bit early this week, but we got an exciting slate of games. You'll have to bear with us on maybe having to skirt around some injury status stuff. But again, just pay attention Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and you will know exactly what to do. We'll put you in good position to get your lineups set for this coming weekend, the all important week 9. You know, if you're sitting there at 4-4, got to get yourself to 5-4, 1 week at a time. You got to chop that wood. We're going to start things off down in Miami, Thursday Night Football. The Ravens, the resurgent Ravens, going down to Miami to face the Dolphins, resurgent as well. What was that about last weekend against the Falcons? I mean, Survivor Carnage, of course, coming out of that one, and the Ravens, the big story for their part being, of course, that the Lamar Jackson, we think, should be playing this week. But, that going back to the old injury report thing, you really got to pay attention, I guess, when it comes to the Ravens.
That's true. Although I guess on Friday, even though they listed Lamar as a full practice participant last week, I remember John Harbaugh saying answering a question in a weird way that was sort of suspicious, to the point that I was like, "What do you mean?" He answered. He said something that kind of tipped it off, and I think Lamar saying yesterday that he's definitely in. The tone is different this time than it was like toward the end of last week, even if like the technical practice logs might look similar. Either way, though, even if it's Tyler Huntley at quarterback, I don't think the Ravens have any trouble taking care of this game, including covering. The Dolphins, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than I might give it credit for, because obviously if a team like the Dolphins can win 34-10 in Atlanta, which is at least like the Falcons are supposed to be pretty good there, and Kirk Cousins is at quarterback. It's not obvious how it ends up 34-10, but even though I'm a fan of Mike McDaniel, and even though the Dolphins clearly are not quite harmless if they can do what they did last week, I still think they're just a conventionally not great defense, and maybe it's as simple as domes, warm weather, you might get good Tua. And maybe last week was just a nice, set of circumstances for the Dolphins to kind of look their best against a team like the Falcons too. The Falcons are a big time underachievement operation. Like, their coaching is terrible. They're not a good team either. They're just kind of they've been competitive this year because their pass rush is so hard to screw up when you kind of accidentally accumulate the players that they did. But basically, I don't think the Ravens are liable to do the crazy sleepwalking thing that a team as poorly coached as the Falcons might be. And even if it's in Miami, I just don't like, from the Dolphins side of things, I don't like having to bet on Tua Tagovailoa having 2 good games in a row.
Yeah.
So I think also Tyler Huntley showed, like, when you put him into this offense, it at least can run, the Ravens offense can at least run the way it's supposed to. Like, the Cooper Rush signing was so on its face stupid, because the way it went was entirely foreseeable. It's like, pop gun arm, can't run the ball. What even ostensibly does he do? Whereas with Tyler Huntley, it's at least, well, he can run a little bit, and he has a terrible arm too, but at least he can kind of play an easier version of quarterback, because his running opens things up, and he can lean on things other than his pop gun arm. Whereas Cooper Rush has the pop gun arm, and he's dependent on it too. It's just a terrible idea. Yeah. So I think even if it were Huntley, not that I'm worried about that. I think it is Lamar. And you have like the homecoming kind of narrative for him. So even though it's on the road, I think it's still kind of like a Lamar home game.
Yeah, the king of Pompano Beach is Lamar Jackson. I remember a few years ago, I think it was like the 2021 season, the Ravens did sleepwalk in Miami on a Thursday night. That was a very confusing game, and I want to say Jackson got hurt shortly thereafter that, and the season kind of went to crap from there on. But I think the Ravens are just kind of in a spot now where, being as bad record-wise as they were going into the bye week, that there's no such thing as having the luxury of kind of sleepwalking in any spot. So I think
As
Lamar
long as they
Jackson,
run, if
yeah.
they just stick to the ground game, the Dolphins can't do a whole hell of a lot about it. Like the only way the Ravens can screw this up is if they they psych themselves out on the ground game and somehow turn Tyler Huntley into a passing quarterback script. But if they just make that Dolphins run defense line up 35 times, they can't withstand it.
And I think we saw something interesting kind of emerge from Sunday's game in Baltimore, and that was the reintroduction of Keaton Mitchell into the offense.
That was cool.
4 carries, like 43 yards. I want to say peeled off that big 25-yard run in there, was effective on the kick return too. So I'm not sure if he's quite ready to be a free agent ad or anything in your standard redraft leagues. But I do think if you're playing a showdown slate on Thursday night, he's an interesting throw in.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Keaton can't seem to get more traction as a passing down back. It seems like Monken just really loves Justice Hill, and that role doesn't seem up to negotiation at all. But it's just so obvious that Keaton Mitchell's a way better pure runner, and it was cool to see last week. On a grim subject where I was worried that the answer would be just disheartening, depressing. He looked pretty fast, like that injury that he had. I was just like, crap, it's over.
Yep.
He's never going to be the same. And even if he's kind of fast, he'll never be like the screaming fast that he was before the injury. And maybe he's still not screaming fast, but he looked pretty friggin' fast, like at worst, like a low 4.4 kind of fast. And I'd like to believe he's fully back, because if he is, then as a pure runner, I mean, Keaton Mitchell is just starter quality for sure. I mean, maybe he's bad in passing downs. I don't really know. Don't know how he looks in practices as far as that goes, but give him the ball and he goes for sure.
So keep that in mind for your showdowns. Anything else on this one? I mean, it's not like the Ravens defense has been particularly good thus far. So I mean, you feel okay about starting the Dolphins that you normally do?
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about Waddle, or more, I worry about Waddle in this game than I did last week, because right or wrong, I consider Nate Wiggins like a better corner than AJ Terrell. And if Wiggins is on Waddle, that's like a little more smoke than I'd want as a Waddle investor. But if he can get some cracks at some of these other parts of the secondary, he can definitely beat those guys. Maybe I'm wrong to even bring up the corner matchup at all. Like maybe it's just if Tua doesn't, if Tua doesn't completely implode, then Waddle will always produce, and maybe it's just that simple. But Achane you definitely like. He especially, it's hard to find any matchup related concerns.
No, I wouldn't have any either. I think Roquan Smith looked good last week, but I still don't think this Ravens defense is going to be particularly stingy against the run.
Pass defense might, like the pass defense really might get there, but they got to add some bodies on the defensive line if they want to get better against the run.
Trade for Quinnen Williams.
Oh my God.
that would be insane.
I'd be I'd be right back into the hype at that point.
They are 2-5, and they are minus money to win the AFC North. So more of a statement on the state of the AFC North than anything, but interesting nonetheless. Let's get on over to Sunday. No early games or anything like that this week. We'll kick things off in the 1:00 window Eastern time with the Bears and the Bengals. Bears 2.5-point favorites on the road in Cincinnati. The Bengals obviously coming off of a loss that knocked me out in Survivor against the Jets. I didn't think that it was possible that the Jets could score that many points, but when you play the Bengals defense, apparently it is. So when it comes to this Bears offense, how good of a setup is this for them? And, are we expecting them to like hit that team total that looks like it's about 28 points?
Well, I think all of our kind of worst case anxieties about Caleb Williams are looking pretty much true. I don't know how he even like finishes the year as a starter if he keeps playing the way that he has. So Tyson Bagent's dad is probably going to be president or something in like 3 years after Tyson. gets rid of the Hollywood diva Caleb Williams, and the Bears still suck, but they run the offense at least. I guess to be fair to Caleb, he did have some moments last week where he was running the offense a little bit better, and he was you could see he was like aware, I need to pull the trigger on this one, and he kind of forced himself to get rid of the ball more quickly than I think he's naturally inclined, and so his long term is not slammed shut by the fact that he's playing poorly right now. But man, Caleb Williams just sucks right now, and I don't know if even against a Bengals defense that I can take for granted that there will be a lot of easy yardage. I guess in the ground there might be, like the DeAndre Swift part, Kamanungai to a lesser extent. That seems to be hard for the Bears to screw up at this point, but I don't have any faith in, like, even Odunze. It's like he's so good, but I can't count on him getting 6 catchable balls in a game. It's just you're starting a guy like that in season long, of course, but I got my hopes up in the first month that, like, oh yeah, Odunze is finally, he's unleashed. It's on now, and we're kind of back to last year again because Caleb's just kind of playing too similarly to last year.
That's right. I mean, like the first 2 games coming out of the bye, I thought were pretty impressive from Chicago. But we talked about it a little bit going into the game last week that their 4-game win streak, it was a little bit schedule dependent and everything like that. But I think they can win this game at the very least. I think that the Bengals,
they are pretty
coming
bad.
They are just. I mean,
they lost to the friggin' Jets.
Yeah, like what else can you really say at that point when you give up that many points to that Jets team? It was without Garrett Wilson too, correct? Like
yeah, and Josh Reynolds, I think. So, like Justin Fields is just like, I have no idea how we won that game. That's I don't remember what happened. I'd like to thank the I don't know. I don't know if the Bengals, like, their defense still seems to me like it should get kind of better over the course of the year. Like, they're getting better cornerback play than they have in a long time. And if Hendrickson is ever active, you can maybe bank on the pass rush doing something. But I think the problem too is Joe Flacco on offense is not actually good. He's just good for fantasy. Like there's still a lot of plays where it's like, God, how is this guy even in the NFL at all, let alone playing this game right now? So Flacco knows how to, best as he can, play within himself at this point, but he really is a limited player. And if the defense is liable to give up 37 points to the Jets, then yeah, it's one of those things, like, even if the Bears are a bad offense, they still might be able to put up points.
I think that we, it makes sense that this total here is sitting at 51.5 or 52.5, depending on which shop you're looking at. So, I mean, points aplenty, defense optional. I'm sure this one will be, pretty popular for DFS. We actually have Joe Flacco as QB 13 this week. So that dovetails with your point about him at least being good for fantasy.
Yeah, and last week Flacco, with all the buys and injuries, was probably like a top 6 play, even as ugly as it was in real life. This week, if you have to use him, it's not a big deal, but on my NFFC team, I'm probably going to be starting Stafford instead, for instance. As far as picking this game, I go with the Bengals, I suppose, but man, these are two teams that are run poorly at the top, and they are not reliable products from week to week.
Yeah, and you see the ripple effects on down into the on-field product. Last thing for me on this one is Chase Brown. I mean, I don't know if you ever like actually benched him. I mean, maybe some people benched him go in that matchup against the Steelers a couple weeks ago. Then he has the big game. Has he kind of regained the trust a little bit here over these last 2 weeks to where, you're starting him and you're not dreading it so much anymore?
Right. You got to revise the expectations relative to the preseason, but Brown is not a bad player. He's just a player who's not good enough to transcend bad circumstances, and the situation around him has improved quite a bit in the past 3 weeks. So, he's got roughly 40 PPR points over the last 2 weeks. This matchup might be it's not easier than the Jets. I guess I can't go that far, but it's easier than the Steelers. I think. I think the Steelers have down lineman personnel that's way better than what the Bears have. So if Brown can go over 100 against the Steelers, I think you can call him a running back 2 against the Bears.
Yeah, that's about where I've got him as well heading into this week. Before we get on over to the Vikings and Lions game, we do have a message from our friends over at Circa. It's football season, and the best place to catch the games is at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas, featuring the best pool in history, Stadium Swim. Stadium Swim has 3 levels, 6 pools, and a 143-foot diagonal screen. Whether it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, Stadium Swim is America's favorite place to watch football. No matter the size of your group, Stadium Swim is the place for you. From owner suites to cabanas, day beds to stadium booths, there are seating choices for everyone. And the best part, Stadium Swim is open 365 days a year. With temperature controlled pools, it's a great place to catch the games all season long. Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Book today at circalasvegas.com. We also get a message from our friends over at Blue Wire. And here we go. We got Lions, Vikings. Folks, the spread in this one, at least at ESPN Bet, Lions are 9.5-point favorites over there. Why might that be? The Vikings are officially floundering. They I think it's been talked to. If you've been on Twitter this week, it's been well established that they were always going to have a tough second half of the season. So it was really pivotal for them to kind of clean up in the first, 6-7 weeks of the season. They were unable to do that. They got thrashed, I thought, by the Chargers last week on Thursday Night Football. Carson Wentz, of course, done for the season with a pretty gruesome sounding non-throwing shoulder injury. So re-enter one JJ McCarthy into the fray here. And good luck, pal. You got to go on the road to face the Lions.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know how the Vikings are supposed to so much as run a basic offense if it's going to go the way it did the last time with McCarthy. I have to believe specifically that there were protection calls that McCarthy was not tending to correctly when he was starting earlier this year, because in a way that just did not make sense, he was taking on instant, like, free rusher pressure pretty much every play, which I can't remember the last time I saw that bad in the NFL. Like, you normally see it even with the worst offensive lines. It's like they get a hand on the defender, but their feet are in the wrong spot and they kind of fall down and let him free, something like that. But like with the Vikings and McCarthy earlier this year, it was like before the snap, every play, McCarthy said, "Don't block that guy," and then they let that guy through, like as if it was the goal of the play. I don't think McCarthy is like going to be this player forever, but in the meantime, it's at the very least clear like he was not prepared, and there's a chance that he somehow is just this bad. I don't know how. Like, I don't know how he played at Michigan the way that he did, if he's quite this bad, but until something more positive is shown by McCarthy, I feel compelled to assume the absolute worst about him, because they could not even run their plays the last time he was starting.
Yeah, pretty abysmal. So I think, like, if you had lingering optimism for your Jordan Masons or your Aaron Joneses,
Ooh,
like,
not so
yeah.
much. Yeah.
I mean, even Addison, I feel like has been a guy that's in Jefferson, of course. I mean, he's more of a given than anything, but
Not
Addison's
anymore. It's like Addison
Addison's been
especially is going to get pinched.
that was my concern coming into the year. That's why I don't have a ton of him in redraft, and that's why I was kind of gravitating more towards Hawkinson. But I don't, do you see even 200 passing yards in this game from the Vikings?
I think that's, especially if garbage time gets involved, that could happen easily enough. I'm more writing off the possibility of McCarthy in the first quarter, in the second quarter, keeping the offense on schedule and exhibiting any amount of control at all. Really, like it was just immediate panic pretty much every snap that he was out there, to the point that even Jefferson, who was completely quarterback proof before McCarthy, saw his numbers significantly suffer. So I am worried about Jefferson, but of course, more worried for Addison. I guess in Addison's case, it helps a little bit that Hawkinson apparently is never going to produce again. But even if it's just Jefferson and Addison fighting for targets, it's like, if there's only 8 good passes to go around, then 6 of them are going to Jefferson at least.
Yep. So you're kind of like just touchdown dependent. I feel like if you're an Addison investor. On the other side, what do we do with Jamison Williams right now? Because there's a bunch of advanced metrics that really like what he's doing. The target share is solid enough at 15%. He's doing well after the catch. Uh, Obviously, he's a long A dot type of guy, which we never felt like was a great fit with Jared Goff, but he's only getting a target on 14% of his routes right now, which is the 29th percentile among wide receivers. So I don't know. I have a decent amount of JMO this year, and I'm losing the faith a little bit. I don't think that he's a bad
It
player or
sucks.
anything, but I just don't think that the way that this offense is set up, where you have a top 3 running back in football in Jahmyr Gibbs, you have a top 8 receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've got a reliable guy in Sam Laporta. It's hard to find the opportunities for Jameson, especially when he's running to a part of the field that Goff isn't looking at.
Yeah, it's not his fault. It's Goff's fault. John Morton's fault for trying to force something that was not there. Taking what was working last year, deciding that it wasn't good enough, doing something worse this year, getting less for it. You had at least 1,000 yards in 15 games for Jameson last year, and this year he's on pace for, I don't know, something like 650 yards or something like that. Like, it's a failure of policy, there's no doubt, and we know that because of how last year went. The issue is very simply they are forcing too many of Williams's routes downfield to a part of the field where Goff can't actualize the threat. And Williams can be perfect for his own part in the way he goes about running these routes. Doesn't matter. Goff will be hesitant to pull the trigger, and when he does pull the trigger, it's going to be like scatter shot accuracy. It might even be under kind of like pressured circumstances. Like it might be kind of like a throwaway because he's just throwing the ball as far as he can, and Williams is out there. But Williams has 37.9% of Detroit's air yardage, which is 95th percentile among all receivers. And you would not believe that based on just his receiving production this year. You would have thought, like, God, 289 yards in 7 games. He must be getting like 11% of the air yardage. He's getting 38%. The ball isn't going the right way. It's traveling, but it's going to places that Goff can't hit the broadside of a barn. So unless they start to use Jameson Williams more like they did 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs when he had 6 catches for 66 yards, which was more in line with the way he was used last year. Last year, Jameson Williams had an 11.3 yard depth of target. This year, it's 16.2. So John Morton is not wrong to look at Jameson Williams and suspect we can get more downfield from him, but you got to look at who the quarterback is before you start rearranging everything under that premise, because Jameson Williams can't do anything if this is how far they're running him out of Goff's range. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So therefore he becomes a really, really like volatile play. I think that the way that I view him for like my teams where I have him is if I can deal with having 0 floor and having just a bit of upside, then I'll throw him in. Or like if I'm in a position where I think with this game being at 1:00 on Sunday, it's a tougher decision. But
I wouldn't want to start him, honestly, in really any scenario if I could help it. He has 2 or fewer catches in 5 of 7 games.
Why? Yeah,
with a max of 6 and a second place of 4.
It's just, it's not cooking right now. And I know they're coming off the bye. Maybe they're going to try to do a couple things to help get him in gear. Do you think additionally that Okay, so this Vikings defense is probably not as good as we anticipated. Do you think that that's at the fault of the offense, and therefore, like with what we're saying about this Vikings offense this week, that the Vikings defense is very much in trouble here?
I think so. I think the Vikings defense is more or less as good as the one from last year. They've had a couple front seven injuries that have um, set them back a little bit, but they're getting hanged out to dry by this offense, and that's even with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Carson Wentz was terrible, but he was still way better than McCarthy. And if you leave any defense on the field long enough with short enough fields, things gonna start just going sideways. And if you're going against the Lions, you don't need to make the fields any shorter. Or it's one of those things. Like, Goff, in my opinion, is capable of a big time goof game anytime. It's not so much about the matchup, though. It's more like sometimes he's just really on one. And I'm not sure. Sort of like the Lions like sleepwalking into this game. I don't know how Goff really falls apart to that extent here. So yeah, I don't think I'd want to start the Vikings defense in fantasy, even though you might have to in a lot of spots. There's not that many defensive matchups where you're like, oh, this will be a feast. It's more like there's like three good defenses to play every week, and everybody else just has to kind of like deal with it.
I have a best ball team that where you had to pick defenses, and I was very happy to get the Vikings and the Jets. And good lord,
sorry, man, I led you
I'm
there.
I'm lucky to get 3 points in best case scenario. It feels like, but both weeks, and I think the Jets are off. So come
Thank
on,
God.
Vikes, hold them under 40, please. All right, next up we've got.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see some goofing. Next one, another NFC North team expected to blow out the opponent. We've got the Packers, 13-point favorites against the Carolina Panthers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the Packers definitely looked the right way against the Steelers. They looked like a team that's supposed to win a lot, even against good teams. So the Panthers are definitely short of that. I think the Panthers present some slight dangers in that if you're the Packers defense and you don't show up to defend the run, the Panthers will, of course, take that yardage. And if on defense, if you get a little complacent, I do worry about Jordan Love kind of getting tricked into some bad ideas by Evero Ejiro, the defensive coordinator. But that's still a very preliminarily rebuilt defense they have there. Like, it's not supposed to be very good, and when they do play well, it's like, wow, good for them. But it's not what you're really expecting here. Like, Josh Jacobs should whatever Packers runners are getting the ball should be able to move the ball pretty well here, and you'd hope that with like minimal pressure, minimal exposure in this game, Jordan Love should be pretty comfortable. I don't know about the spread exactly, just because it's kind of a lot of points, and I think both teams are content to run the ball a lot and not at a particularly high tempo. But yeah, it should be one of those things with the Packers. It's like whoever normally produces should be worth starting here. I do think with Tucker Kraft, you're maybe not going to get the blow up game until the high stakes kind of situations like last week. But it is good to see LaFleur. I think that's the first time I've ever seen LaFleur kind of get it that way, where he's like, where he understood, I have to get the ball to the best player I have right now. Like, he doesn't see it that way almost ever. And to even one time like last week see it that way with Kraft was kind of encouraging, because I think if LaFleur gives it a shot, he might like it. Like, give it a shot, dude. Just give the ball to your best players and see if that makes things easier. I bet it will.
So I got asked this question on the radio down in Ruston, Louisiana yesterday. Shout out the sports company down there. Where do I rank Tucker Kraft rest of season as among tight ends? I put McBride number one still. It was hard to put Kraft ahead of Kittle, just because I feel like Kittle's week to week target share, I think, is going to be a little bit more stable. But that's the discussion that we're having at this point. Is Kraft 2 or 3 rest of season? To me,
I think Kraft gains a little bit in half point PPR and standard scoring, and maybe loses a little tiny bit in full point PPR because like he has 5 or fewer catches in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games this year. And it's like the touchdowns and the high yards per target doing the damage really. So he's in other words very efficient and explosive, but the usage volume still isn't there. He still only has 41 targets on 406 snaps. So if you are likely to play between 50 and 60 snaps in any given game, which that's generally the kind of scene you're looking at with an NFL offense in any given game. Kraft only projects for 5 or 6 targets in that game, and it can that rate can fluctuate a little bit too, of course. So like over the last 2 weeks, we have 19 targets on 108 snaps. If that persists, that 19 to 100 or so, then Kraft is the tight end probably 1. But if it instead kind of regresses back to that 2 to 5 targets per game kind of thing, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the games this year, then in that's more like that's like tight end 6, 7, 8 kind of thing. But the touchdowns, how to say this, the more the Packers use Kraft, the better the chances of his touchdown production sustaining, in the sense that the Packers would score more touchdowns for it. Like the less that they use Kraft, the more complicated they make things. And so if they go away from Kraft, if his target rate regresses back to that more like 1 per 10 snap kind of range, I could see in that case that maybe Jordan Love's touchdown production kind of falls off over the next few weeks, and with it Kraft. But at the very least, like if you have Kraft, you're almost certainly starting him at this point, because there's enough problems in the tight end world that it's not worth like getting picky about it. But it would be nice if LaFleur kept the target volume more like it was the last 2 weeks, because that it sure looks easy, when they just throw him the ball. Looks easier than the other options.
He's unreal. Like, I love watching him play. He looks like he's just trying to get in a mosh pit every time he gets the ball in his hands. It's been a great little schedule run. Not to like take anything away from what Kraft has been doing these last couple of weeks, but week 6 coming off the bye, Cincinnati ranks 32nd against tight ends according to our nifty little player page. Arizona 25th, Pittsburgh 31st. Woof.
Nice.
Did not expect that. And Carolina 26. So maybe if you're like stupid rich at tight end, maybe you're a little bit worried about that game against the Eagles coming up in week 10. But I think this is a great spot for him.
I think the higher the leverage, the more secure you could feel about Kraft's usage, because it's, as much as I rag on LaFleur for trying to spread the ball around and the snaps around too much, it makes sense to not put more Tucker Kraft tape up against the Panthers if you want to save an element of surprise for the Eagles the week after. And against the Panthers, they should be able to move the ball a variety of ways, if not, almost all ways they might consider. So they don't need Kraft in this game. He can take whatever is there pretty much always, though. And I think against the Eagles, I'm definitely starting him, because that's one of those games where it's like, if the Packers do not get Tucker Kraft going in this game, you're just asking to lose.
That is a really good point, actually. So I rescind my point on that one. And then, with Kraft's emergence, what do you do with these Packers receivers? It's always kind of like this big kind of mystery box. Where are you at right now with like your Matthew Goldens and so on?
Well, the Christian Watson return definitely complicates all of that, but Christian Watson was definitely really effective against the Steelers. So if he can continue to give them, 2 yards per snap, then that's definitely a worthwhile addition to the offense. What I know less about is how exactly all of Watson, Golden, Dobbs are supposed to fit together, especially if these backups like Dontavian Wicks and Malik Heath are for some reason playing prominent snaps. The Savion Williams thing is annoying. Who could have seen that coming? I think Dobbs is clearly like the boundary only guy of the group, and so he should see his usage and playing time pretty stable.
But Golden has been going to the slot a lot the past month or so. Wicks played the slot a lot before his most recent injury. Obviously, when Jaden Reed is around, he plays only the slot. Christian Watson plays the slot sometimes. Like he's not nearly at the rate that Golden, Wicks, especially Reed do, but significantly more than Dobbs does. So Watson playing so many as like 25 snaps, I feel like makes it really difficult to bank on much from Golden at all. And I don't know. If we knew what plays Matt LaFleur was going to run, we could probably guess like, oh, the opportunities are probably going to be here, whatever. But we don't know what ways they're going to use. We don't know where Watson's going to line up. We don't know where Golden's going to line up. We know Dobbs will line up on the boundary, but that's the only thing we can take for a given.
So just based on our discussion so far, that this pod, two receivers, talented receivers in kind of tricky situations for different reasons. Who do you rank higher this week, Golden or Jordan Addison?
I guess Golden, just because I'm kind of going back to that point on Kraft that pretty much anyone in the Packers offense should be able to score in this game or be otherwise productive against the Panthers defense. So I'll say Golden just because I think it would be a little disappointing if his snap count went underneath 40. And 40 snaps in this game should be good enough to get him to his first NFL touchdown. But it's not easy because I think Jordan Addison's awesome. And if I had even faith that JJ McCarthy could play like a top 50 NFL quarterback this week, I would pick Addison, but I just can't convince myself that he's that good, that McCarthy's even a top 50 quarterback.
If you have those types of start-sit conundrums, make sure you're checking out our Who Should I Start tool, which we just launched on the site. That'll give you insights into how we're breaking things down on the projections front. We can tailor it to your team if you're using our My Leagues feature. So keep that in mind. It's a pretty slick tool that we just launched. If you're not subscribed to rotowire.com, first of all, what's up, man? Come on. Second of all, you can do it at a nice little discount, 15% off any subscription using that code YouTube15. Go to rotowire.com, enter that code YouTube15, and bada bing, bada boom, you got a discount for a subscription that's going to help you win your league. Spent a lot of airtime on the Packers side of this one. Panthers side, Bryce Young, hopeful to practice Wednesday. Sort of who care as far as whether it's Dalton or Young. So
big old who care.
So with that in mind, I don't know. Are there any Panthers you feel okay about?
It's tough to bench a guy like McMillan, especially with the price that he went in most drafts.
Right.
Really good player. It's not just because of the price that he cost you. It's McMillan's really good, but it is tough to set like fair weekly expectations for him when we just don't really we don't know if the quarterback will get him the ball. We know the quarterback will be some version of bad, but like bad enough that he can't produce. I don't know. I do worry that this might be one of those games though. It might be a bad idea to it might be like getting cute to bench a guy like McMillan, but I feel like going to Green Bay, I don't know. Especially if it is Bryce Young, I think I like it even less for McMillan that way. Like I do think Dalton is better, even though he's terrible. But
he's like the poor man's Flacco.
Yeah, it's really too bad for everybody. But I think that the Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard thing is an interesting latest development with Canales, implying that they're going to go more with Dowdle. But Dowdle's had a lot of success lately, but it is small sample stuff, and it's still the case. His numbers at the same sample earlier this year with Hubbard were worse than Hubbard's. So there's a thing in the NFL that happens pretty reliably where a player who is very productive with minimal exposure, even if it's a couple starts like the Dallas and the Dolphins game, when you see a player that begins to appear almost like too good to be true, it's almost always because they are. And if they really think like Hubbard's the cause of their problems, I think they're just going to find out like, no, your team isn't that good. And, 8 carries isn't very much of a sample to judge anybody.
Like, but where I land on it is like, I just think that it's hard to expect Hubbard to like be back to 100% with like a mid-season
That's my
calf
concern.
injury.
Yeah,
right?
if he's not healthy, then yeah, don't force him back onto the field. That's the reason to not give Hubbard carries. It's not that they're like, well, I guess Dowdle actually is better because the last 25 carries between the two. It's like that's not how things work. But playing hurt that is like a viable explanation for why Hubbard's numbers would continue to be worse.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that Hubbard has the exact 2 games that Dowdle did against the Dolphins and the Cowboys, but I think a fully 100% Hubbard is still the better player, but 75%, 70% Hubbard is just not as good as Dowdle right now. So this is a tough spot for Dowdle, of course, because I think the game's going to get away from the Panthers. I think they're going to like try to just play keep away as long as they can, but against that defense, like you're just going to have a lot of 3 and outs, and ultimately, like you're going to have to get away from the run game, and it's just
He's
not
due for
going
some fumbles too. He's a fumbler that people haven't noticed as a fumbler, so like that's another thing. I think I picked the Panthers to cover in the weekly picks, and now I'm regretting it. And I'm actually starting to think like they're going to get like shut out here.
I think I like the Panthers just because I've seen the Packers play around with their food a little too much against bad teams. So covering almost 2 touchdowns, I think the back door is open for the Panthers. But
yeah,
this isn't a competitive game by any means. I wouldn't expect. Let's get on over. Here's an interesting one. We got the Broncos and the Texans. Texans 1.5 point favorite at home in this one. The Broncos coming off a pretty electric offensive performance. The last 5 quarters, they've been insane on offense. In the face of the haters and doubters, I'm going to say I still don't believe it with the Broncos offensively, at least.
Yeah, there's just a lot of kind of weak teams in the NFL with weak offenses or defenses, and in this case, Dallas's defense we already know is just kind of a laugher, and it's those laugher matchups where Bo Nix does all of his damage, and it's like the Chiefs backups last year. It's never against a Houston type defense where Bo Nix carries the Broncos offense with great volume and with great efficiency. But I still have a lot of trouble taking Houston seriously because
I do too.
Houston's defense, in my opinion, is quite good, and I wouldn't be surprised. I forgot to check if Danico Autry played last week, but a guy like him coming back from injury is a huge deal. Like he's kind of a monster and never gets credit for it. But yeah, he did play. He's played the last 2 weeks, and he had a sack 2 weeks ago on 10 snaps. How did I not know this? So yeah, Danico Autry ramping up over the next couple of weeks with Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter. That Houston pass rush could become like the nastiest in the league. Any second, it's at the top, but near the top one way or another, whatever way. But if Autry really kicks into like a 30 snap kind of role, he's a monster. So I could see Denver really struggling on offense here, but I more so just see the Houston offense struggling for the same reasons. The Denver defense is what would carry them to victory here. I just think Denver's defense is better situated to carry the Broncos to a win in any given game than the Houston defense is. The Broncos defense is just a little more fully realized, in my opinion, and I think for this matchup, the crucial thing is Denver has a pretty reliable run game in J.K. Dobbins that they can sort of slow the game down with, give Bo Nix shelter with, and the defense of Denver gives the Broncos the option of putting some volume on Dobbins over the course of the game. And if you get Dobbins to that 17, 18 carry kind of mark, even a good run defense, if it spends enough time on the field, is going to start losing a step. And I don't think that we can count on the Houston ground game to give CJ Stroud the same benefit on the other side. Like, I think both offenses, especially their passing games, generally kind of like flail in this setting. But I think the attrition game on the ground suits the Broncos a lot more than the Texans, who maybe I'm selling the Chubb-Marks combo short. I don't know. I have trouble seeing them on the level that I do Dobbins.
I do too. And I think, the secondary punch that the Broncos have, if they ever really want to explore it. We love RJ Harvey as
Yeah.
well. So I think that's conventionally just a better backfield. And then, on the Texans front right now, got to see if Nico Collins is going to be available. He was out this past week with a concussion. Christian Kirk missed that game with the hamstring. So is, CJ Stroud and the 2023 or 2022 Iowa State offense out there. I wonder if Brock Purdy just looked to the other sideline and like shed a little tear.
He might have been. I thought he was seeing things because
Yeah.
it was funny that it's like all three of those receivers, just like what the hell is going on? Yeah, I think if Nico Collins is back, that's obviously always huge. But I think Pat Surtain is really the last guy, even more than probably like Sauce Gardner. It's like Surtain that Collins would really prefer not to see. So I don't know. I think CJ Stroud's a much better quarterback than Bo Nix. Maybe I should care more about that than I'm sort of paying attention to right now. But I just feel like this Houston offensive line against that Denver pass rush is a complete laugher.
Yeah.
It's just a total like every single one of the. I like Ariante Ursery. He's still in a lot of trouble against Nick Bonito. Even as much as I love Ursery, he's supposed to probably be more of a right tackle type. I don't want him chasing Nick Bonito from the quarterback's blind side. So that's why I'm going with the Broncos, but it's definitely like an attrition-based reasoning. And if either of the teams turns the ball over like 2 times or more, they put their team in like serious losing risk territory with that alone, because I don't think either offense can count on much yardage from scrimmage.
I had a brief moment there where like I had a Dennis Miller instinct to just be like, yeah, I call him Ursery because he's selling me a bill of goods. I don't know. Maybe like 5 people in the audience will get that one.
I don't even know what the word usury even means. So
it was a big deal in the Middle Ages. Just really, it was like the
I know it's not
OG
good.
payday loan.
I know people say it's like a bad thing to do. It's just I've never learned what it is.
Yeah, now it's like commonplace. But yeah, back in the day,
it's not Ariante's fault.
No,
it's not. He's not doing it.
Yeah, and it's spelled differently, so we're not accusing him of that. I had a bit of a Dennis Miller moment right there. What better time to move on and go to the Falcons Patriots rematch of that great Super Bowl that everyone loves. The Patriots 5.5-point favorites against the Falcons. 45.5 is your total in this one. We just don't know who the Falcons are on a week-to-week basis. It's driving me insane. Whereas the Patriots, I think they have like a top 5 quarterback already right now in Drake May.
Yeah, man. I thought the Browns game would be more of a struggle for them because while I'm a big Drake May believer and while I think the Patriots are, while I thought even before last week, like they're a good team, I didn't specifically think that the Patriots had the from scrimmage skills, like the ability to produce yardage from the receiver position, especially. I didn't think they had the personnel necessary to sort of like to provide a quality level at the pass catching reps anywhere near the quality level that Drake May was providing as a quarterback. And I thought going against corners like Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell, that this would be a setting where it's like, oh, you kind of needed better receivers. You just you ran into a brick wall here, and you can't really do much more than wait it out and try to grind your way forward a little bit. But instead, Drake May, after I don't know, maybe a slow first half, it might have been first quarter, just started posting great per target numbers to all of the Stephon Diggs. Booty had a third good game in a row, and I thought this was like a really tough matchup for him specifically. So it doesn't seem to matter who Drake May is throwing to at this point. It's just whoever he throws to has really clean per target numbers, even though it's not even Diggs. It's like he looks awfully good at times this year, sure, but it's not as if he's what he was 3 or 4 years ago or anything like that. And Mac Hollins, it's there's not that much that May has to work with, and yet his numbers stayed perfectly clean last week in a setting that I think it would have been understandable for him to kind of have a couple turnovers or something. It's just he's making it look so easy, which even as a Drake May fan, I didn't expect it to look so easy for him. I thought he was a little tiny bit raw out of North Carolina, or at least like more eager than polished, but he's just making everything look really easy. And I don't want to like therefore sell the Falcons short, especially for their defense, because I do think they have quite a bit of talent on defense. Like with that pass rush, with the safeties that they have, I can't easily look at the Falcons and assume they'll just lay down in any given week. Like they're probably still capable of playing really well on defense at times, and maybe including this game. But if Drake May can kind of just not even flinch against, Myles Garrett 5 sacks and then those 2 corners, I don't know why the Falcons would be anything more than like a speed bump to Drake May now.
I don't either. So he's pretty much set it and forget it at this point. On the other side, got to keep an eye on Michael Penix. He is still day to day with a knee as of earlier this week.
Man,
so
the Falcons really should just trade Kirk Cousins back to the Vikings. That'd be funny.
I know.
He probably sucks too, but who cares? It'd be funny. It'd be a good bit. But the Falcons offense, it's, I guess, to be fair to Kirk Cousins, it's like this offense has the worst receiver group in the NFL if it doesn't have Drake London. So I don't know what to make of the Drake London hip thing. That was kind of alarming and annoying how it popped up on Friday last week. After I posted the cornerback article, Drake May just casually announced is out with a hip. So if he's out again, I guess at that point, then it's like, yeah, this might turn into a blowout, because Bijan Robinson, obviously most weeks can carry that offense. If it comes down to it, he can pretty much do it himself, but there's a limit to even that, as last week showed. Like you can't truly put everything on him and just always assume it'll work out, even against the friggin' Dolphins defense, which is terrible against the run. So maybe the right take is the letdown of last week, between the London injury and the fact that the Falcons coaches are just plain old bad. Maybe that brought on like a level of randomness that won't apply here, and maybe especially on defense, the Falcons will kind of at least play more toward the level that they would naturally, without the whatever effect the coaching staff might have. But going to Foxborough probably isn't where as a dysfunctional organization, it's probably not where you figure everything out, generally speaking. So it really could be 2 rough weeks in a row for the Falcons off. And if Drake London's out, I guess it's almost like the common sense assumption.
Yeah, so very concerned about that. I think the Patriots get this one done. I think I'd consider using them in Survivor even. Next up here, we've got the Niners and the Giants. Moment of silence for our guy Cam Scatterbill.
Yeah, that sucked.
Just a bummer. Like I was walking around at the Ravens game on Sunday, and like people were talking about Cam Scatterbu's injury. Like it was, like it became like a household name in just like a matter of a few weeks, it felt like. So bummer to see that go. And I think he was so important to kind of providing cover
he was awesome.
for Jackson Dart. Like
he was playing at like a no joke, like all pro level.
Just like the physical like presence out there, and like his ability to just kind of like wear defenses down and like no easy tackles. Like it was an absolute difference maker for that Giants offense. Now you kind of have Jackson Dart exposed. I'm worried about that in this spot, even with the Niners having to travel all the way across the country.
Yeah, it's a difficult spot for Dart. I will say, I think I found his game last week the most convincing one so far. I think there's still, especially the people who were calling him like a star on Twitter, I think that stuff's still a little silly. But Jackson Dart might be like a Brock Purdy kind of starter or something, which is a good use of the pick for the Giants, and it's like something for them to be their fans and them to be happy about and optimistic about the future over. But man, you keep subtracting the pieces around him in the offense, and even if Brian Dable's a great game planner and even if Dart is more or less the real deal, it's just sort of unfair to expect him to overcome so many things in a row. The 49ers, meanwhile, they kind of wore out their luck last week. Like they've all year overachieved, not just on offense with all the injuries, of course, but on defense almost especially. Like they've gotten really good results with Robert Saleh, results better than their talent would normally lead you to expect. And a game like last week is kind of just what happens when you're dependent on that style of football. It's just you're going to kind of hit one game where you're not lucky, or more specifically where you're unlucky, and it's like your talent can't bail you out. The talent never was part of why you were succeeding. So I can't just assume the 49ers are going to like bounce back out of the embarrassment of last week, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. I guess if Robert Saleh allowed them to overachieve as much as they did in the first 7 weeks, then even after a letdown game, it's like we might assume that the 49ers defense is kind of due to bounce back for the same reasons they overachieved initially. And with Dart just not having very much help around him, it seems to me like, not that I'm expecting the 49ers to win easily or anything, because they just have so many issues. It's crazy. But the Giants, they've taken a lot of punches. It's like it's a lot to get through.
And aren't they like sneakily among like the still healthy star players? Like, isn't Dexter Lawrence kind of having an invisible season? Is that what I've been seeing?
So I haven't paid close enough attention to him to know what the story is. Sometimes with those nose tackle types, they're liable to get washed out, especially if the offense isn't consistent, because it's like they're just tackling runners rather than running backs rather than quarterbacks. But admittedly, I don't know, at the very least, I don't know why the run defense for the Giants is so bad every single year. I'm not trying to say Dexter Lawrence is a fraud, but normally you can tell like a guy's a real killer 2-gap nose tackle by the run defense showing the results. And he's not exactly getting Casey Hampton, Vince Wilfork level run defenses to show for it. But I don't know. I've never seen a Giants off-ball linebacker play especially well either. I know Akarake is the best one they've had in a while, but I still don't think he's that good. So I'm not going to put Dexter on the fraud list quite yet. But it is safe to say that a big game from him here would mean a lot. To get that like Vita Vea kind of level of a run defense would be huge against the 49ers. I just am kind of skeptical. I think that it's a lot of like lateral runners that have specifically given the Giants trouble too. And I like Shanahan, McCaffrey. That's kind of like a nightmare for a defense that can't, defend to the edge effectively.
So on the front of this, the offense that this Giants defense will be facing off against, seems like a sort of toss-up right now, whether it's going to be Brock Purdy or Mac Jones. I think there's a chance that Brock Purdy returns and Mac Jones dealing with a knee injury of his own. Still not sure about Ricky Pearsall, however, as far as the receivers go. But Juwan Jennings, pending the injury reports, I think should be good to go once again. So, it's kind of a ragtag bunch once you get outside of Kittle and McCaffrey. But, do you still kind of overall, given what we were saying about this Giants defense, feel pretty good about the offensive projection for the Niners?
I think there should be somebody. Kittle, I guess, would be your first hope / expectation. But if Kittle doesn't get going as a receiver, I think Kendrick Bourne could kind of bounce back sort of where he was like 3 weeks ago in this setting. The big problem that the 49ers offense has without Pearsall and without Ayuk or somebody like that is they have no vertical presence whatsoever. Like I would imagine last week, George Kittle was pretty easily the fastest receiver because Bourne runs a 4.7, Juwan Jennings runs a 4.7, Demarcus Robinson's like a high 4.5 kind of guy. So that's just so slow. You don't even need to play with safeties. You can just go all corners and linebackers against those receivers. They will not beat you deep. But I think the difference between this matchup and the last week's for the 49ers offense Christian McCaffrey should get going in this game. The run game for the 49ers should be fine here. And it's a lot easier to work with slow receivers like these if you're dealing with a 2nd and 4 every once in a while. And, getting some play action, getting the defense anxious about the run is one way to play, to create separation for these slower receivers that were not options for the 49ers last week. So if Pearsall is back, that would be better yet. But if Pearsall is not back, still think there's a chance that the 49ers passing game gets going somewhere. And if it's not Kittle, it pretty much has to be Bourne, I guess, because I can't really see Jennings doing it with his we like to bring it out, the iron lung bit that he's doing.
That dude will play through pretty much anything. It's pretty remarkable. He's got the dog in him. There's no question about it. I guess I would be remiss. This is a fantasy football podcast. Your expectations of Tyrone Tracy rest of season now with Scadaboo out of the picture?
Really don't know. I think Tracy's okay. He's definitely not a bad player or anything, but it's tilting to consider the gap between him and Scadaboo, because in my opinion, Scadaboo is, even if Tracy's good, it's such a no contest that it feels like it's an awful lot of a drop off. But Tracy, he showed last year he's definitely no bum. So if you're starting him from a flex spot, I think you can like that for the volume reasons alone, even when the matchup isn't very good. Like there aren't that many starting running backs, and he should be among the clear starters from this point.
Yeah. So if you held on to him, or if you scooped him on waivers this week, I think you got to feel okay about using him the rest of the season. I just don't think that the ceiling is remotely as high as that of Mr. Scadaboo's. We wish him a full recovery. Let's get on over to Indy versus Pittsburgh. This one in Pittsburgh. Colts 3-point favorites in this one. I'm about to say something really stupid, Mario. Please bear with me. So I think a lot of people have used the parallel of last year's Vikings to kind of describe this Colts team. I take it a while back further. As far as I know the cast of characters aren't the same as far as what they do, how they function, and everything like that. But as far as the level of surprise for what they do versus every week, you kind of have to you're forced to believe it a little bit more. Kind of reminds me of the 99 Rams a little bit.
Really? Sorry, I just
you're just there's no way this is happening. Kurt Warner was bagging groceries. Daniel Jones was Daniel Jones. How is this possible? But it just keeps happening.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Daniel Jones is playing well, but it's still early. There still have not been many stress tests to this point. And by stress tests, I especially mean a scenario where Jones has to kind of carry the offense down for a game-winning drive or whatever. That's a scenario that Shane Steichen has done a good job of keeping the Colts out of, because they've been effective so early and a variety of ways. But especially it's the run game that is driving that offense. And if there were a game where Jonathan Taylor were truly struggling, and if Daniel Jones ended up in some 3rd and 10s, I'm not so sure it looks as good as it has to this point. We'll see. This interestingly, there's a lot of sorry, I'm trying to pull up the spread for this game. It's looking like it's one of those
-3.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It feels like it might be a little bit of a trap. It's early in the week, so we'll see how these lines are affected in the upcoming days. But nearly 70% of the public betting on the Colts, and they're -3, and the -3 isn't really moving. So I don't know. I don't know how to get the Steelers right. They're a team that have been annoying from week to week because I don't know. They seem like they should be able to do more, especially on defense. But if the run defense is always letting Jonathan Taylor get easy yardage, then yeah, it should be another easy game for Daniel Jones. But if somehow the Colts end up in some 3rd and longer distances, it's like the TJ Watt at all pass rush can cause some problems, and Daniel Jones can definitely get glitchy when he's rattled a little bit. So I guess if you're going against the Colts and you're from the Steelers position here, it's like you probably need to understand your mission is rattling Jones so that you make him look like New York Giants Daniel Jones for pretty much the first time this year. Because if you let Jonathan Taylor just keep going nuts like this, it doesn't matter who even. I'm sorry, I know Anthony Richardson literally played before in this offense, but this offensive line is better than the ones of the last couple of years too. And if Jonathan Taylor is just going completely bonkers like this all the time, it's like the quarterback question barely even matters. But more importantly than the Daniel Jones part, Jonathan Taylor for MVP is it might not happen, but it is clearly the morally correct stance. So he's the most valuable player, and it's outrageous how good he is. The idea that a running back like him isn't worth paying up for and recognizing as one of the very best players in the league is something I think a person can only harbor if they at the deepest honest level hate the game of football.
Yeah, those people are losers. I don't like them. But
14 touchdowns.
He's just rocking out. It's awesome. But to give myself a small bit of cover from again what I said. I know it's not a great take, and the Rams won the Super Bowl, and Kurt Warner ended up being a Hall of Famer. And I'm sorry to cite this at you. I really am. Indianapolis #1 in EPA per play and #1 in success rate. So the offense in and of itself.
I love those. Those are my favorite things. But yeah, I think.
I'm sorry.
No.
I could cover this one.
Well, that's the thing is like the Steelers are stupid in that way, and Rodgers is stupid and annoying in that way, where it's like if he can't be just a good quarterback anymore, then Rodgers' next best thing to do is to just subvert everyone's expectations, whatever they are. In terms of like he I assume Rodgers is like at an organism level, like his purpose is to be annoying, and like he wants to kind of like stay in he wants to stay in like the relevant conversations somehow, and it's not going to be at this point like Rodgers is so good, so it has to be like, wow, Rodgers played pretty well last week. I thought he was toast. I thought he looked pretty bad against the Packers, and then he has that good game against the Colts after I bet all this money on the Colts to cover. Like the Colts should easily win this game. I can't immediately think of a way that they wouldn't. I guess it has to be turnovers because and sacks, I guess. So if the Steelers somehow stall Jonathan Taylor and get Daniel Jones in 3rd and 10 type situations, then that pass rush, the Steelers pass rush, even if the Steelers coverage is terrible, which it is, the pass rush might be popping enough in that one case that it's like Jones has the worst game of the year to this point, and maybe that's one way the Steelers can pull it off. But I can't think of literally any other way.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be a TJ Watt game, basically, strip sack, that vintage performance from him. The Steelers defense, extremely expensive, really bad results for I've seen the Twitter streets be calling it the shower curtain as opposed to the steel curtain. I don't know if it's as catchy, but I'm into it. A shower curtain that's like covered in mold or something. It's pretty bad right now. So yeah, this is one of those things where your gambling brain comes into effect, and it's like, why is all the handle on Indianapolis, and yet the line is just 3 points? Makes you scratch your chin just a little bit. Next one, Chargers Titans. Chargers 8.5 or 10-point favorites, depending on where you're looking. Looks like Bet Rivers is hanging at a +10 for the Titans. FanDuel 8.5 if you're looking to bet the Chargers. Let's see here. So, what do we make of the Chargers exactly? They kind of got off the mat in a big way against Minnesota. I thought they looked amazing the first 3 weeks or so of the season, then really kind of hit the skids pretty shortly thereafter. They are seemingly getting a little bit healthier now. Should be another good spot for like Kamani Vidal, I believe, because I think Hampton's still on injured reserve. So great spot, I think, for the Chargers and the Titans. I mean, I don't think we have to like really spend any time on the Titans. So just like, how good does this look for the Chargers here?
Shamir DK is interesting as their slot guy going high low. He gives them something that they haven't had. But yeah, I don't know what the Titans are supposed to really do as far as putting forth a serious offense. And on the Chargers side, it would be nice to see them keep Ladd McConkey going in this game, but I don't think they need to. They could kind of get some, another Trey Harris game. Some backups can play in this one. What's the harm? But until the Chargers have the game kind of all, zipped up and accounted for, it makes sense to me that Gadsden would be pretty much automatic until kind of further notice. And yeah, you're right. Kamani Vidal, I think it sets up great for him. I think he tapped into another level lately, and this matchup has, I don't know, it might be even easier than the Dolphins one.
It's somehow I think you're right. The Titans are just kind of they're in a league of their own, really, and it's like a relegation league at this point. Gadsden we have at tight end 7 this week. We have Ladd McConkey as wide receiver 10. We have Vidal as running back 22. So
that's low. That's really low. I think you could put Vidal up at like 8 or something this week.
I mean, like dollars to donuts. Like I think that he's a better play than Jalen Warren and Ashton Genty ahead of him in this particular week. Maybe even Travis
I would play
Etienne
Vidal.
Yeah. So
it's a great setup for Vidal, and he's a totally good player. Like the concerns that he showed last year, like kind of lacking pop, lacking burst, those were things in hindsight we can say were due to him kind of processing and not really cutting loose the way that he did at Troy. But beginning with that Dolphins game, it's like maybe the Dolphins was what he needed, because it gave him an example of like the game slowing down and looking easy, and he kind of was able to kind of work a little bit with it and remember like, oh, this is how you get to the second level. This is what you do. And this, it looks like this in college, but I see now that it looks like this when it happens in the NFL. And now I'm not so confused, and I can show my 4.46 speed and drive my legs through contact instead of like spending time thinking like, am I screwing this up? Am I screwing this up?
Yeah, tackling him is like tackling a fire hydrant with like some sort of crazy exhaust fumes coming off of it. Like I'm a big fan of his. I'm glad to see that we're vindicated. It didn't take that long relative to his draft stock. I know last year was last year, but I feel like just the Dolphins game alone was vindication enough. But a great spot for him to put some more good stuff on tape, maybe command a bit of a role even when Hampton comes back. Before we get to the afternoon window, got a couple more games here, folks. Got a message from our friends at Mega Sports Progressive. Elevate your game with the ultimate sports contest, Mega Sports Progressive. Dive into a world of excitement with 3 progressive jackpots and a chance to win big every week and every month. We're rewarding 1,500 lucky winners, distributing over $50,000 in monthly prizes. All you do is answer 15 daily sports props. Add up your correct responses for the week's cash prizes and tally the week's totals for a huge monthly cash reward. Megasports Pro makes it easy and fun to join. This is a thrilling opportunity to be a part of our growing community of sports enthusiasts. Sign up today and unlock a chance to win big every day, every week, and every month. Sign up is free, no commitments, no credit cards. Your first 9 days of play are free. Visit megasportspro.com today. We also got a message from our pals at Chalkboard. Cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today is your chance to win up to $40,000 on a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use promo code ROTONFL, that's ROTONFL, to claim your free pick and a 100% deposit match now. Afternoon time, Rams, Saints. I was thinking about it this morning, Mario. I probably should have thought about it earlier. So the Saints are turning to Tyler Shuck. I feel like if he was like a Tulane quarterback with that name, that's so good for NIL purposes. Like he could have oyster deals coming out the wazoo, but
I thought you
he's
were going to
getting
say Nebraska because I forgot about oysters.
well, yeah, shuck and corn, but
Corn.
you
Yeah.
shuck some oysters down there as well, as long as the month does or doesn't.
He's going to need
include
to do the Will Levis professional mayonnaise seller bit soon with either corn or oysters. We do know that.
Yeah, it's because this is a tough
This is
way to get
stinky.
tossed into the pool, man. I mean, we're seeing 14 points on the spread here in favor of the Rams. And yeah, I hope that oyster endorsement comes soon for Mr. Shuck, but this looks like a bad spot.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler is terrible and should not be starting in the NFL, but I think you can both believe that and still understand that Shuck is worse. I don't think Kellen Moore cared about Shuck's draft capital at all. And if the I think the GM probably wished they could have exerted more influence over Kellen Moore to force Kellen Moore to play Tyler Shuck earlier than this. But I think that shows if that is the case, and if they couldn't get that pressure on Kellen Moore, then it shows that Kellen Moore is maybe like kind of carving out his own little bit of power within the organization. Maybe can even kind of like run off this GM and have a say in who the next one is. I don't think the timing of Shuck playing in like a really challenging matchup has anything to do with that, but I do think Kellen Moore does not really care about this player. This player is bad. The Saints were foolish to take Tyler Shuck 40th overall. They probably would have been foolish to take him in the first 5 rounds. So that they spent a 40th overall pick on him is just embarrassing. And I wonder why the EPA peddlers of the world can't find it in them to cry about, spending a high pick on a quarterback. Like you spent a 40th overall pick on a quarterback. Don't draft quarterbacks. Simply don't do it. But they're silent on this one. I'm not sure why. They're going to stay silent about it because no one's going to want to claim credit for this whole Tyler Shuck thing. It's not going to go well.
No. So, I mean, what is his? I mean, he had a bit of a cameo last week, and I think if I remember right, was averaging under 5 yards per attempt. So, I think at least Rattler was getting targets to Chris Olave and to a lesser extent Shaheed. But like, does this Saints offense become like the worst in the league, or other than the Titans notwithstanding? Like, is their projection offensively about as bad as it gets right now with Shuck back there?
I think it was pretty low to start with. Like Rattler, I guess he did have a good 6-quarter stretch right before the last 2 games, but Rattler was not pushing the ball downfield at all. So these targets that Olave and even Shaheed were getting, as high as the count might have been, there weren't that many useful targets because the field was so condensed, and the corners were sort of just waiting for the pouncing opportunity because they knew it wasn't going over the top, and they knew they wanted to get some big hits on Olave. So they didn't dislodge the defense at all. They let the defense play the game on its own terms, and Rattler would sort of just check down within that sort of spacing. What Shuck should be different in the sense that he'll push the ball downfield. Like the sense of caution that Rattler played with, for better or worse, I don't think Shuck is capable of it. Like he's call it risk averse, whatever. Like he's not going to play with the same sense of caution as Rattler. So I could see Shuck being better for Olave and Shaheed in that maybe the targets for Olave won't be 11 on 45 snaps. Maybe it'll only be like 7, but there might be a viable 40-yard catch target in there that Rattler never would have thrown. So I could see Shuck being better for like the yards per target for those 2 receivers, but there's probably gonna be like more turnovers or something. There's probably gonna be some kind of cost to that, like that Shuck plays with less caution than Rattler. It'll come at some probably a turnover cost or whatever. But for fantasy, I don't think he's worse for those receivers than Rattler. I thought Rattler was just awful as far as that went because he would just kind of it was just kind of playing hot potato with the ball, really.
So it's not often that I feel inclined to go with whatever like the highest price defense is on a
Yes.
given like DFS slate. Feel like this is a good week to go with the Rams.
Yeah, there might be a couple other decent ones. Like I think Detroit is kind of interesting, but
Yeah.
the Rams would really be letting us down here if they let Tyler Shuck look like, back when he was the guy after Justin Herbert at Oregon 9 years ago, whenever that was. It's like if that prophecy somehow comes true now, I'll feel stupid and I'll blame the Rams for it. I won't blame myself.
I remember like listening to a Pac-12 podcast long ago when I was in the Madison office talking about Tyler Shuck being the next big thing at Oregon. I've since moved and
He's
lived
26,
in my current
dude.
locale
He's
many years
He's
later.
older than Rattler.
Yeah.
He's like 6 months older than Rattler. It's crazy.
I'm surprised it's only 6 months older. Like, I mean, that's yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's like 11 months. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. He's like
Yeah,
almost an entire year older than him.
Folks, the COVID exemption rule in college is we're going to get a couple more Shucks here. I think in this coming class, and then we'll kind of be back to normal.
Dude, I'm stupid. They have the same birthday. It's literally the same day, but a year apart. That's so funny. 26-year-old Tyler, the 26-year-old boy Tyler Shuck, the baby quarterback.
Amazing. Let's get Raiders Jags. I think these are two teams coming off the bye, if memory serves. We've got the Jags as a 3-point favorite out in Vegas.
Ugly kind of matchup for varying reasons. The Jaguars have not left their dramatic days fully behind. They're kind of they're having issues, and I guess at least on the Brian Thomas front, maybe he's getting like a little bit too harsh of a deal, because if he's playing hurt, like if he's playing through a torn shoulder labrum or something like that, A, I could understand why Thomas would get alligator arms, and B, it's harder to catch passes if you have a shoulder thing that needs surgical repair after the season. But as bad as Thomas has been, even with Travis Hunter's breakout game last week, Brian Thomas is still averaging like a quarter of a yard more per route run than Travis Hunter. So I saw this is always going to keep happening every week apparently, but the people who drafted Travis Hunter way too high in fantasy were starting to, like as they do every week, we're getting their hopes up, like, okay, well now though they're going to have to use him at receiver more. And to be fair, Liam Cohen has mentioned some things toward that effect, including before last week's game when Hunter had 14 targets. But what we talked about in the preseason, John, about the fundamental logistical difficulty of using a guy like Hunter the way that the theory was presented to us dictates that the intentions of the Jaguars can only mean so much when pressed against circumstances that they're thrust into. And if they want to try to get Hunter going on offense as just a desperate way of breaking through their offensive struggles, they might find themselves introducing struggles on defense that they didn't previously have to deal with. And also, if there's a game that the Jaguars lose because Hunter was not playing defense on the last drive and they give up the last points in a game, all the sentiments in the world just about Hunter getting used more on offense just don't mean that much, because it like Shad Khan might just step in and be like, no, you're like, I've seen half dozen articles this week about how I'm an idiot for having Travis Hunter on the bench when we gave up a game-winning touchdown, and I don't like reading about how much of an idiot I am, actually.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. That kind of stuff happens in the NFL. And Hunter, it's good that he played the way he did last week, but it was all garbage time pretty much. And for the year, his numbers are still abysmal, like straight up killing the offense. So the idea that Hunter would be the solution to the offense's struggles when he's been so centrally the story of their struggles in the first place, I'm skeptical. I don't know. So anyway, the Raiders are terrible, of course, and they just don't have a whole lot going for them. But I'm worried that the Jaguars just are not really in a place where they're capable of consistently taking care of business. Like, I think things will continue to have a way of getting complicated with them.
Yeah. So basically, for this game, like I'm betting against the Raiders more than I'm
Yes.
meaning to bet on the Jaguars. We'll have to see if Brock Bowers is back. It seems like there's a pretty good chance here, coming off the bye, everything like that. But ultimately, like I don't know what has happened with Gino, but he's like close to unplayable at this point, and it's just making everything tough. And they want to get Genty going, but it's hard when there's just loaded boxes every single time. uh you know it Yeah, I'm running out of words for trying to like spin any sort of optimism for the Raiders. And I kind of expect by the time that we do this pod next week that Jacoby Myers is no longer on the team either.
Man, I hope so. I'm kind of sick of this game of chicken they're playing where he maybe is hurt, maybe just doesn't want to play, and maybe they just don't want to get him hurt before trying to trade him. But then they're also leaking to the media about like, we're not going to just let you have Jacoby Myers. Oh, no, you got to pay up for this guy who's he's going to be a 29-year-old receiver who's a free agent in the offseason. And if the Raiders are being stingy about the trade demands, then they're not going to trade him, because no one's going to trade more than like a 5th round pick for Myers. They need to get over that.
Right.
And if that's not a good enough offer, then I don't know, get him on the field, get him, try to get him some numbers at least. But it seems like Myers doesn't want to play for them, and it seems like the Raiders, they're kind of doing like the Dolphins thing, where it's like with the Tyreek Hill, where they're like, well, we don't like the offers we're getting, so we're just not gonna give ourselves nothing or less maybe instead, because that's how you negotiate. It's about playing hardball. You gotta show resolve and willpower so that you can be dominant in negotiations. And this is what they have to show for it so far.
Yeah.
If Bowers can play, that'd be huge, though. I will say that, like, it's as bad as Gino has been. Bowers was so much of their plan going into the year that it kind of makes sense to me that they would struggle so much without him, because I'm not sure they thought about much more than just like, oh, Bowers will get it. Bowers will get us 1,300 yards, and we don't have to think about that, thank God. And then all of a sudden, like, they do have to think about it, and they don't have many good ideas. So yeah, I don't know how the Raiders are supposed to do it. If they make this a close game or win, I think it would be attributable more to the drama issues with the Jaguars that we previously mentioned than it would be the Raiders snatching the victory. So yeah, I'm going with the Jags, but I don't know. It could be a dreary kind of game for everybody.
I think so as well. Imagine like the crowd shots in that game are going to be hilarious. Like the Jags fans out in Vegas, that'll be good. Oh, and it's like, well, it'll be past Halloween, unfortunately, but the Raiders fans can definitely keep the celebration going into Sunday. Game of the week here. Chiefs, Bills. Bills coming off of a nice little bounce back against the Panthers. The Chiefs, sorry, folks, they're rolling. They look so good on offense now that they're back up to full speed. Although Pacheco did get dinged up in that game against Washington, but I think Mahomes is back to like playing at maybe like the 2022 level, which is pretty high watermark, I feel like. Rashee Rice looks like one of the best receivers in football, too. The defense is good enough. I think it's better than that of the Bills. I think I understand why the Chiefs are favored on the road here.
Yeah, it'd be reassuring for the Chiefs if they could get back Trey Smith. I don't know if he has any shot of coming back this week, but Mike Caliendo is not a good guard. He gets rocked pretty much. Not to pick on the guy. I mean, he's a backup. He's not supposed to be that good. Every time I've seen Mike Caliendo play over the last 2 years, he's just getting annihilated. So the Chiefs would ideally have Trey Smith back at right guard. And if Josh Simmons cannot be back at left tackle, Jalen Moore is fine, I suppose. But Jalen Moore and a backup right guard, that's pushing your luck a little bit more. So I'm taking the Chiefs
Oliver,
to win.
I think did hurt his bicep, right, against Carolina.
Yeah, so he's out, and I'm still an Ogunjobi head. I think Larry Ogunjobi is good. So
yes,
he I think can give them some of that stuff that they used to get from Oliver, admittedly in greater amounts with Oliver, but I think Ogunjobi could be a problem for Caliendo, and if there's a backup left tackle on the field at the same time, that's a scenario where Mahomes could get a little more pressure than he expects. And meanwhile, the Buffalo defense, I don't know what to blame, or if it's one of those things like I don't know the coverages, so I can't go assuming what looks like any player's fault actually is their fault. But if Christian Benford can't give them the kind of production they're accustomed to from the last couple of years as starter, their corner rotation is just kind of bad at that point, and you can't have a bad corner rotation going against Patrick Mahomes with this offense that the Chiefs have going right now. So I do think on the one hand, it'll be interesting to see how the Rashee Rice projection works here, like how he interacts with the Bills defense, because it's so yak centric with Rice so far. It's outrageous. Like, sure, his average depth of target is 2.7 yards, which is 2 full yards lower than it was going into this year, and it was already really low going into this year. So I think if they can't get Rice going more downfield in this setting, that might suit the Bills, because like McDermott's whole thing is kind of trying to do a money ball thing in the secondary where the corners are given positioning to pounce at the ball rather than having to chase receivers, which they generally can't do. So they're supposed to be good at dealing with receivers who apply the way the Chiefs have applied Rice lately. It's just one of those things, like, you certainly don't care for Rice in fantasy. Like, Rice, if you have Rice in fantasy, you're starting him and you're feeling fortunate to do it. But I'm wondering if basically this might need to be more of like a Xavier Worthy kind of game, or not at the expense of Rice, but maybe Worthy gets more room than usual, because at the very least, like, Tre'Davious White and Christian Benford cannot run with him at all.
No chance. So to your point, the Bills do play a defense that would theoretically set up to slow down someone like Rice a little bit more than it would Worthy. But I just feel like at this stage, the Chiefs just have so many. They're threatening you at so many different levels. I mean, we saw Washington trying to bottle up the receivers, and then who's even around Travis Kelce? Like, no one was even in the same zip code on that one downfield throw that they hit. Mahomes, I do think that the offensive line point is interesting, because it felt like, especially in the first half, that Washington was knocking Mahomes around a good bit. Like, I was loving what I was seeing, but ultimately it just didn't matter. They got themselves in gear and took care of business in the second half. I still think the Bills are really good, but I think that I don't know. I think it's more of like a critique of Joe Brady than anything. Like, in games like this, like he might as well be on autopilot and just tell Josh Allen to snap the ball and just kind of sit back, drift right, and see if anyone gets open. There doesn't feel like a lot of scheme. I feel like James Cook is important for this Bills offense, like, kind of staying on the rails. He had a huge game, obviously, last week. What do you make of the Chiefs' run defense and how Cook projects here? Because I think that could go a long way to telling us how this Bills offense performs.
Yeah, so I expected Josh Allen to have much bigger numbers over the last 2 weeks than he did. I don't know for sure why that is. Like, it could be, Allen just wasn't at his absolute best, but it also might be that defenses were showing such looks that, like, it's kind of leaving relatively easy yards to be had in the ground game. Not that I'm trying to like take credit away from James Cook, but if he's averaging more yards per carry than Josh Allen is per pass attempt, I think especially pushing over 19 carries. I think that shows that the defense was more concerned with Allen generally, which would be understandable, and it's probably the way most defenses see it. The question, I guess, is if that is the explanation, then does the Chiefs defense see it differently after Cook has 216 yards rushing last week? Because maybe they do. Maybe the Chiefs take out certain measures to try to limit the run game threat posed by Cook. That comes at the expense of their pass defense allocation, and maybe that's the window Allen needs to kind of go nuts like he was earlier this year. We know that version of Allen will eventually show up again, but I guess in the meantime, one thing that needs to change first is he needs to start getting numbers out of Keon Coleman or some boundary receiver, because Khalil Shakir did a lot of lifting last week. He had almost half of their receiving yards and their one touchdown, but Keon Coleman hasn't done anything at all since week 1. And it's like,
right,
for Josh Allen to get to 200 yards passing, we need Coleman to get over 40 yards receiving as a starting point.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it hasn't made sense in a little while, or I suppose since Diggs left. So it hasn't been.
I think you take the over
long,
though this time. Like the Chiefs' offense should also force the Bills to throw more.
Yeah,
certainly than like the Panthers did. But yeah, I think I'm not trying to sound like I doubt Coleman. I think Coleman will come surging back into the picture, maybe even in this very game. It would make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, especially if he can avoid Trent McDuffie. But yeah, Josh Allen might need to throw the ball more this week just to kind of match the punches with Mahomes. And if Coleman can't get going in that situation, then I think we have some cause for concern, because there's the slack for sure and the urgency, the need for sure in this case. So if Coleman doesn't pop, if he doesn't come through in this case, we can't really blame the circumstances.
Yeah, like the Allen point is sort of, or it reminds me a little bit of like your Tucker Kraft point, where it's like in these big high leverage games, like you kind of expect him to like kind of elevate and raise his game. So I feel like Allen's going to have a big game here. And for the love of God, this game needs to deliver, because the rest of the afternoon window is Rams, Jags, and Jags, Raiders. So this is the only show in town. If this game's bad, I'm going to be upset. Moving on. Sunday night, Seahawks, Commanders. Think we'll see Jaden Daniels back, but we still have the Seahawks -3 coming across the country, but they are off the bye. I think the Commanders are starting to show. I don't want to like call last year like a total fluke. Like they were as good as they could have been last year, but I think that they weren't proactive enough in upgrading, particularly like the defense. The defense feels like it's gotten so old and slow so fast.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in the secondary specifically, because they added Trey Amos in the second round and Jonathan Jones as a cornerback 4. I was like, wow, they're friggin' loaded at corner now. They generally have not played that well at corner. Sainer still, at least initially, struggled moving from the boundary to the slot. Marshawn Lattimore had been getting torched constantly until that really good interception that he had last week. I don't know if Lattimore has any chance to improve and recapture his previous form at this point, but the Washington offense needs to win it for them, as you were kind of laying out there.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, for the Washington defense, I'm kind of specifically concerned about their run defense in this one. I feel like Clint Kubiak might put Bobby Wagner in a blender here, and Kenneth Walker, especially cutting back or moving laterally, might be difficult for the kind of creaky knees that Bobby Wagner has at this point. So I'm taking for granted that the Seahawks offense will be productive, more or less, with the caveat that Darnold is still due for a brain fart game. One of these, any quarterback needs to be given some amount of grace as far as that goes. And Darnold's played well enough that he can have kind of a bonehead game or two and still be called very productive over the course of the full year. But if Darnold does not have a 2 or 3 interception game, I feel like the Seahawks should move the ball pretty much constantly. And so the ability of Washington to answer getting Daniels back is huge. Getting McLaurin to kind of a recognizable state is huge, and especially for this game because I think those Seahawks corners really don't want to run that far downfield. Like Woolen's the only one who can run it all, and even he, especially on like a double move or something, does not want to deal with Terry McLaurin's deep field presence. So I think Daniels, not to like put it all on it. It is kind of all on him, but in an unfair way. It's kind of just up to him to bring this all together and get ready for what might be a bit of a track meet here. But I don't know. I worry a little bit about the Washington run game, I guess, at this point. Like it should be good. I don't know what Tunsil's injury situation is, but like Cosme being back, that offensive line really should settle in nicely. So you think Krosky Merritt has more room to run here than he did the last couple weeks. But I don't know. It just feels like there's more working against Washington in this matchup just because so many of the crucial questions just sort of fall on Jaden Daniels, which, you know, he's prepared to carry that, but the Seahawks don't put as much pressure on any of their players.
So I have not super actionable, but concern nonetheless when it comes to McLaurin. I don't like that he seemed to kind of like that quad seemed to act up on him a little bit on Monday night.
Yeah, that's true. Not a good sign.
Yeah, it's just not much you can do about it. I worry about that just being a lingering thing. You know, he has to take some series off, that type of stuff. The Seahawks, I just think, are kind of a buttoned up operation at this point, whereas they have one of the best receivers in football in Jackson Smith and Jigba, who just is just as automatic as it gets, really. So I think that this could be bad for the Commanders, and I think you know, we kind of are talking next week about like the Commanders' backs against the wall going in. I think they play the Lions on the other side of this one. So if they don't defend their home turf here, you know, the season maybe starts to get away from Washington a little bit. Anything else to add there before we hit Monday Night Football?
Jeremy McNichols, good for him. I think he is a good player. So if somehow the opportunities continue for him, I like his chances of converting, but it does seem to me like they still want to make the Krosky Merritt meme happen, even though I think it's to their detriment.
Yeah, I only have him like in one or two spots, and I like other than that Chargers game, I don't really understand why they're trying to force it. It hasn't really
Epic
been
bacon, epic bacon
just
bill.
Lastly, we got the Cardinals and the Cowboys finishing us off. We got the Cowboys licking their wounds a little bit, 2.5-point favorites at home after their loss last week, whereas the Cardinals, I believe, are coming off of the bye. Really, a lot of high totals this week. This one, 54.5.
Yeah, I feel like if it's how to say this, if it's a high scoring game, I feel like that suits Dallas just because I don't think even against the Dallas defense that the Cardinals passing game can be truly like automatic the way you need to win a shootout with this Dallas team, because if it's shooting out, then Dak Prescott's over like 350, because if Dallas is really shooting out in earnest, CeeDee Lamb's at like 125 or more, George Pickens is around 100 or more, Jake Ferguson's going to get whatever 6 to 12 targets every single week. So trying to find matching numbers in the Arizona offense feels borderline impossible to me. I think the Cardinals need a lower scoring game to win this, because the run game is led by Zonovan Knight. They have Zay Jones and Greg Dortch combining for like 75 snaps a game. I don't know what's supposed to happen with that. You know, it's even against the Dallas defense, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that for like a full game. So I could see some amount of, you know, easy production for the Cardinals offense, including Zonovan Knight, maybe even including Zay Jones. But even if Marvin Harrison has a good game, and even if Trey McBride has one of his customary good games, I think that just falls well short of what the Dallas offense is capable of putting up on the other side. And so Also, if Kyler's playing through a foot injury, I don't really know what to make of that. I don't
Right.
believe we have clarity yet on him or Brissett or what kind of state Murray would be in if he did play. So I'm taking Dallas to cover. They're capable of embarrassing themselves, of course, but I just think that's much more true yet of the Cardinals.
We're in agreement here. I think the Cowboys offense gets back on track. Defensively, they are going to just kind of continue to be
Total
pretty,
no-show.
yeah,
Just
big
zero.
old liability. It's bad, but yeah, I'm not convinced that the Cardinals can make them pay for it. Kyler apparently completed an on-field workout earlier this week, so I'm expecting him to be able to give it a go, especially with the long layoff and this game being on Monday night. But ultimately, like, I'm not sure the offense wasn't like that bad with Brissett
No.
at the helm. So like I just don't. Yeah, I don't see this as like the blow up game for the Cardinals offense, even though like we tend to think or tend to take things as a given that whichever offense is playing the Cowboys is going to have their best week of the season. I'm just not convinced that happens, or even if it does, that it's enough to win this game with the Cowboys offense getting back in gear in this spot on Monday Night Football. But that's going to do it for us on this edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. Much appreciated, everybody listening. Again, check out our fancy new Who Should I Start tool. And a good way to get after that, go to rotowire.com, use that code YouTube15, and bada bing, bada boom, you got 15% off any subscription. Gets you access to all of our rankings, projections, articles, tools, all that good stuff. Tools like our props, picks and props feature, and of course, our brand new Who Should I Start feature. I should be able to not stumble over my words when naming the actual tool, but that's okay. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, for Mario Puig, I'm John McCackney. Thanks for listening.